All right, let's jump right into one of the most talked about business books out there, Ray Dalio's Principles. We're going to break down the core ideas from the guy who built Bridgewater Associates, literally the largest hedge fund in history. And believe it or not, it all kicks off with a pretty shocking self-assessment from the man himself. Yeah, that's not exactly what you expect to hear from a billionaire investor, is it? I mean, how many of us would be brave enough to start our story like that? Dalio basically argues that whatever success he's had has way less to do with what he knows and everything to do with how he handles what he doesn't know. And that, of course, begs a pretty big question, right? How on earth does that mindset lead to building a company that manages, over $150 billion? It sounds like a total paradox, but Dalio's answer is really the foundation for everything we're about to talk about. So principles, they're basically fundamental truths that you use as a foundation for how you act. For Dalio, these aren't just some nice ideas you hang on a poster. They are a systematic, repeatable way to figure out what's true and then what to do about it. But to really get his principles, you first have to understand the epic failure that forced him to create them in the first place. Every great story has that moment of crisis, right? Well, Dalio's is no different. This is the story of how he climbed all the way to the top, only to fall into a professional abyss that almost cost him absolutely everything. So it's kind of funny, Dalio's early weaknesses ironically became his greatest strengths. He had a terrible memory and, frankly, hated following instructions in school. This meant he had to figure things out for himself, to really understand the why behind everything. In the world of investing, that's a superpower. It trained him to be an independent thinker who knew he had to bet against what everyone else was doing to actually make money, because the consensus view, well, that's always already priced in. And by 1982, man, he was a rising star because of it. He was so confident in his analysis that he predicted a massive U.S. depression was on its way. And when Mexico defaulted on its debt, it looked like he was a genius. He went on national television and, as he puts it, confidently declared that we were headed for depression. But then, the unthinkable happened. The Federal Reserve stepped in, the markets just exploded upwards, and Dalio was left completely wrong-footed. His call wasn't just a little off, it was catastrophically wrong. The fallout was just devastating. He had to fire all of his employees. He was so broke, he had to borrow $4,000 from his dad just to pay his family's bills. But this moment of total failure, what he calls his abyss, turned out to be the single most important moment of his life. It was the painful birth of his most important principle. In that moment of failure, Dalio had this huge realization. His failure wasn't just bad luck. It was a direct result of his own arrogance. He had completely failed to see reality for what it truly was. And that painful truth led to a massive shift in his entire way of thinking. He moved from a mindset of absolute certainty to one of radical curiosity. The sheer pain of being wrong gave him a deep-seated fear of being wrong again. It forced him to shift away from that arrogant assumption of "I'm right" to the humble and way more powerful question, "How do I know I'm right?" That one question changes everything. It forces you to stress test your own thinking and actually seek out the smartest people who disagree with you. And this is what led him to the absolute core of his whole philosophy. Pain plus reflection equals progress. You see, for Dalio, pain is just a signal. It's nature's way of telling you, hey, there's something important here for you to learn. Now, this sounds super simple, but our egos, they hate it. We are hardwired to run from pain and protect our self-image. The real challenge is to fight that instinct, to actually lean into the discomfort and treat every single mistake like a puzzle that needs to be solved. And this formula became the bedrock for how he rebuilt Bridgewater from the ground up. Okay, so once Dalio had this new mindset, he needed a way to apply it systematically, right? He couldn't just count on remembering to be humble when things got intense. He needed a reliable process, a machine, if you will, for making good decisions. And this is where he started to see everything as a machine, just a set of cause and effect relationships that produce an outcome. Here's a great example. When McDonald's wanted to launch the Chicken McNugget, they were terrified that chicken prices would be all over the place. Dalio saw the chicken itself as a simple machine. You put in a chick and some feed, and you get out a full-grown chicken. So by helping their supplier lock in the cost of the feed, he guaranteed a stable price for the machine's output. The McNugget was born. He started applying that same kind of systems thinking to literally everything. And this became his machine for achieving any goal. It's a super logical loop. First, you set a crystal clear goal. Then, you're going to hit a problem. You always do. Next, you have to diagnose the root cause of that problem, not just the symptom. Then you design a plan to fix that root cause, and finally, you just do it. You execute. Completing that loop again and again and again is how you evolve and make progress. But what happens when the problem involves other people? Or even worse, what happens when the problem is, well, you? And that brings us to Dalio's third huge principle. See, he had figured out how to manage his own failures, but now he had to build a whole company where everyone could confront reality and find the truth together. And boom, another painful dose of reality. You'd think after his big crash he'd have it all figured out, right? Well, not quite. Turns out Dalio's intensity and his directness were just crushing his employees. He thought he was just being helpful, but his partners gave him the brutal, honest truth. This forced him to realize that for a group to succeed, it needed a system for being radically truthful with each other without completely destroying morale. His solution was something he called an idea meritocracy. So an ideal meritocracy, it isn't a democracy where everyone's vote is equal, and it's definitely not a dictatorship where only the boss's ideas matter. It's a system designed so that the best ideas win, no matter who they come from. The real key is weighting people's opinions based on their believability, basically their proven track record in that specific area. It's all about creating a culture of thoughtful disagreement where people are actually encouraged to challenge each other's thinking to get to the best possible answer. You have to push past egos to find out what is most likely true.
So, how can you actually apply this stuff? Well, first, embrace your pain. The next time you fail at something, don't just brush it off. Ask yourself, what principle can I learn from this? And then actually write it down. Second, build your machine. Take a problem that keeps popping up in your life and map it out. What are the causes? What's the system at play? And third, seek truth, not victory. In your next argument, make it your main goal to truly understand where the other person is coming from, not just to prove that you're right.
You see, Dalio frames his life as a kind of hero's journey, this cycle of setting out, facing a huge challenge, falling into an abyss, and then returning with some kind of wisdom. And he argues this exact same path is available to all of us, if we're just willing to embrace reality. So I'll leave you with this one question to think about. If pain is a signal for learning, what painful lesson is reality trying to teach you at this very moment? Your answer to that might just be the start of your next great principle. And that's our explainer on the core ideas from Ray Dalio's Principles. If you found this summary valuable, go ahead and click the like button and be sure to subscribe to Summed Up Books for more deep dives. To get the full, unfiltered wisdom, use the link in the description to buy the book. Or, hey, get it for free with an Audible trial. Click, learn, repeat.